Warm welcome to the Gisborne District Council today. It's on 9 o'clock and it is our council meeting. Welcome to everyone. Councillor Wharehinga will do open this meeting for us.
Morena tātou, a mi noi tātou. E o ngā mano tēnei te whakamuimea tātou ki a koe mo tēnei huhinga a mātou. Ara hena mai ki a u ki te tika ki te pono i a mātou. Tukua mai tō wairua tapu hei manaki, hei awhi, hei tiaki hoki a mātou. Nei mātou e tōhu nei mui tōruaro. Hui tēnei inoi, e rongi i te ngō tō mātou kaiwhakora a Ukraiti. Amen.
Thank you for that. Apologies, I know Councillor Parata will join us later. I have an apology for Councillor Ria and an apology for Councillor Tibble. I'm happy to move that. Do I have a second? Councillor Robinson, all in favour? Contrary, carried. Any declarations of interest today? If not, and we get to that part of the agenda, please make sure that we do record it. I'm going to take you to page 4, which would be the minutes of the meeting on the 17th of October. This was sent out earlier by Annie or Dee. Everyone happy that it is a true representation of the meeting that happened? Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Telfer. All in favour? Contrary, carried. Action register is on page 16. That is an action due in February next year, so that's all going. Governance work plan, you can see all 3-4 pages full of work to be done. So brace yourselves. We've got no leave or absence. Acknowledgements and tributes. I do have an acknowledgement for our civil defence team last night at the Algem conference. They won Community Project of the Year was our Marae Preparedness and Resilience Project. So again, our civil defence team flying the flag for civil defence excellence in Aotearoa. So on behalf of all of us, I also want to acknowledge and congratulate them. And then I also want to acknowledge our comms team who won an award for the 3-year plan, the recovery plan consultation document. It was acknowledged by their peers across the country and they won a prize for the best consultation document as well. So heaps happening there. Anyone else want to acknowledge or have acknowledgements?
To the crew of the boat.
The ship, not a boat, a ship.
Ship. The Manawanui, and for all the work, lovely work on our beaches that they've done over the last couple of days.
That's fantastic. So we had a lovely function yesterday afternoon and welcomed Commander Yvonne Gray and the ship's company to join us. We had a mayoral reception to acknowledge the relationship as the home port for the HMNZS Manawanui. It was an emotional function. Sir Derek Lardeli led it. It was beautiful. They came back with the command, the symbol of command, which were taken out of the Manawanui. The Māori is staying there with it, but it was a beautiful, emotional, for all of them. They have been through so much trauma and coming here and working the whole of yesterday. They've worked, they picked up rubbish, they worked out in Makarori, they worked in several different areas, and we do want to acknowledge that relationship as well. And then I want to acknowledge our councillors who went on the hikoi. I just spoke with Councillor Pahuru Huriwai, who I think got her nails bright red
especially
for the hikoi. And what else? What am I missing, everyone? Councillor Cranston, and welcome from the poll.
Yeah, I was disturbed to hear from Councillor Tibble this morning the passing of Richard Rangihuna. I did have a bit to do with Richard. He's quite a special person. I got involved with him when I was on the board at Aupuni School, and he was quite involved with the school there. And I know that over the years he has been a real staunch community advocate and done a lot for the community. And just a person with a special heart, so just like to pay tribute to Richard.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Councillor Wharehinga.
It's not so much of an acknowledgement, but more of I guess, a statement, and something that councillors and senior staff are aware of. But I just wanted to just formally state for the record that I won't be running for council again next term. I've had a lot of people when I've shared this around this table and also in this building kind of go, oh nah, they're not. So I thought, in order to actually make the statement, I'll put it on the public record. I am not running for council next term. I'll have a wrap-up conversation at the end of next year, but just to kind of get in front of a lot of that kōrero, that people going, nah, mate, no, you won't. Oh, sure you will, or whatever. I'm officially not running again next term. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
Okay, well, this has been wide. We've covered nearly all parts of anything with our acknowledgements. Did you want to say something about Pauline?
I am. It's just to acknowledge that the Assistant Office of the Auditor General passed away when he was in the Gold Coast, which was very unexpected. So he had a good working relationship with him. But just to say and just to acknowledge him and family, yeah.
Thank you for that. What's on?
Sorry, Your Worship.
Yes. No need to
I
apologise.
was a bit slow getting my thingy open with my nails.
It's the nails.
But I did mention it to Dee, just a correction of the minutes on page 5.
Let's take a look.
Under number 6, it should be Charlotte Gibson, not
Yep.
Karakia.
We will, so on page 5, it is not Charlotte Webb, it is Charlotte Gibson under number 6. Jill, thank you for that. Thank you, Councillor
There
Clark.
could also just be some points in there from your new petition or presentation. There is the capturing of the yacht club, but not so much of Ngāti Union. It would be good to see that in the record. Thank
We'll
you.
leave that with Jill.
Thank you, Joanne.
Okay, so I'm going to, just before we start, and invite our lovely guests up to come and share their kōrero with us. As always, you can hear I'm using my outside voice. We have our lovely CEO online today because she is doing a week-long training to be a controller for civil defence as well. So she needs to hear all the way to Christchurch. So I'm asking that you please speak nice and loud. And as always, please make sure your phones and computers are turned down so that it does not interrupt when we are in the middle of our meeting. Without further ado, I would love to welcome my dear friend Clive Bibby to come and talk to us. And Clive, you have been here before. You have made a public deputation before. I'm going to invite you up. Are you going to come, all three? Because we can easily put 3 chairs in the front.
I think I prefer to sit down here and be able to dodge the rocks.
All good, all good. So you come and take the hot seat, my friend. And as always, just for everyone to, again, a reminder, do a public deputation. You've got about 8 to 10 minutes to talk to us. Councillors might have some questions. There's no debating happening. They can only ask questions of clarification of you. So make yourself at home, Clive. Take a seat, and the floor is yours. And I will start. You will see me giving you the side eye when it's about 8 minutes. And then we will start wrapping up. But you can sit or stand, whatever works for you. The warmest welcome this morning.
Sure, and thank you, number one. Before I start, I'd like to make a couple of pertinent announcements regarding my presence here today. I'm what's regarded north of these lovely isles as the rogue steer from the north. So don't be put off by that, because I have a message here which you can't deny, and I hope that at the end of my little talk we'll be as one in trying to resolve the issue. I'm sorry to hear, Josh, that you've decided to give it away, but here's a golden opportunity for you to put your teeth into something which I don't care if you spend the rest of your time here on council dealing with this one particular issue. It's that important. Anyway, and before I go ahead, I'd love to acknowledge and welcome my support team from Huawa. Two couriers there, much loved and respected, Dolly Mitchell and Judy Ruru. The town would fall flat on its face if it wasn't for people of that quality and character. So I'm grateful for them for supporting me here. And I must say that I don't claim to speak for the community, but I do advocate on their behalf, and I feel confident that I have their back when I do so. So here we go. I've enabled you to be able to follow this as I read it in order to save time, and so I'll just read it if you're fine with that. Your councillors, thank you for the opportunity to talk about these issues with you today. Please bear with me as I take us on a short journey of historical commitments to a relationship between the local authority and the people of Huawa Tolaga Bay. Unfortunately, the record has not always reflected a bond based on trust. My purpose today is to highlight two incidents when the council has not honoured their side of the bargain, and as a result our taonga are under threat of collapse. The first one is and just while I'm on that point, the first one is the Reynolds Hall. If you have a record of the deed of gift that set up the Reynolds Hall before it was built. It was a gift from Mr. Reynolds to the people of the community who had no civil authority to back them up or work for them, but he recognised way back in 1912 when one of his sons was killed in a polo accident that the time was right for him to make a specific donation in memory of his son to the community with the money to build the local Reynolds Hall, what became known as the Reynolds Hall. Because up until then they had no civic amenity at all in which to meet and so forth. The deed of gift states clearly that the money to build the hall was given on an understanding that when a local authority was established, the building would be transferred to the council's own inventory for safekeeping in the interests of the local community. So that was the basis on which the gift was made and accepted by those people, even though they weren't represented by a council because there was none. Sadly, 3 opportunities to make the transfer to the council's books have been lost and the building has been left to deteriorate without any local commitment to expensive maintenance. We simply can't continue to keep accepting a responsibility that was clearly not and never has been ours. Although I'd have to add that, as many of you will know, that the building has gone under a restoration project costing $2 million, all of the money raised locally. The council supported that work, but they have still reneged on their commitment to take over this building, which is now in pristine condition and ready to, so it's no liability for council, which has been their main reason for disowning it in the past. You know, there are heaps of community halls around the community that did it for this one. Well, they think they will set a precedent, which is understandable, but in our case it's no good because the communities, these rural communities have changed, and whereby in the past we've had service organisations which would stump up the money through the Lions and those other groups who did working bees and raised the money to carry out these restoration or maintenance projects on their community buildings. The young people are just terrific people, but they're never home these days. And so the weekends are not able to be used for fundraising exercises. So this is not just something that it's nationwide, probably worldwide, where communities are facing with this big hole that used to be owned by the service organisations. And so somebody's got to take up the tabs, unfortunately. Okay, now the second one is the Tolaga Bay Wharf. Here's a little bit of history of what we've already done for restoring that project. This magnificent Class 1 historic place is currently the result of community effort initially opposed by senior members of council who refused to accept that this was a taonga that is when open to the public, the #1 single most famous tourist attraction in the region. If you go for a trip on a plane anywhere or anywhere else in magazines or newspapers and they're doing a promotion of East Coast, Tairāwhiti, the big picture is always the Tolaga Bay Wharf. So it's no surprise that we think it's worthwhile saving and maintaining. It has become a major feature of any East Coast promotional campaign and is capable of returning in excess of $1.5 million to the regional coffers annually. I know that because we have measured tourism traffic with the aid of a laser counter operating on the wharf over a 3-year period. So we just counted them. I was tempted to actually put a dog there, a trained dog that would jump across the beam backwards and forwards to build the numbers, but we're honourable people, so we decided to let the truth actually tell the story. And so that figure is extrapolated from the number of people who have visited it. We, for argument's sake, this was a number of years ago now, soon after we reopened it after the restoration, we put the laser counter on and we measured 1,500 people walking the wharf just between Christmas and New Year. That gives you an idea if you extrapolate that out over to, but it doesn't just stop at the Tolaga Bay Wharf. That's the entry to the East Coast. And with your help, the community up there has projects in mind which will add to those community assets or the regional assets, which will stimulate good reason for wanting to visit the East Coast and sustain the longevity of those projects. A well-known local treasure, Auntie Dolly from Tolaga Bay, who is with us today, shared responsibility with me over a 30-year period to raise the approximate $6 million funds required to cover the cost of restoring the wharf so that it continues contributing to the local tourism trade. Once we began to show our capability to raise the funds, the council became very supportive of our activities and made a significant contribution of its own, designating its Manager of Engineering and Works, Peter Higgs, who worked with us in an oversight role, plus offering the full-time services of one of its most experienced engineers in Graham Taylor to supervise the engineering work as it was done on a daily basis. The partnership was an outstanding success, due in no small part to the dedication to the jobs they had been given by Messrs Higgs and Taylor. So much so that both men were able to sign off the restoration work by giving a final report of the wharf structural soundness. That was something I asked them to do because I knew it would be important for maintenance going forward. At my request as project manager, in his report, Peter Higgs recommended that an annual sum of $20,000 should be allocated to the wharf structure for maintenance. Council has a copy of that letter, which they've miraculously found after digging around. Council has a copy of that letter. this is the second part. Council's failures to meet its commitment to the Tolaga Bay Wharf maintenance. Over recent years, the GDC has misspent the money allocated to the coast wharves in general and the Tolaga Bay Wharf in particular, spending the money on unnecessary expensive engineers' reports that have resulted in the wharf being closed indefinitely to human traffic, citing danger to human safety as the reason for the closure. Well, I know because of the reports that were given to me when the wharf was opened again for public traffic and after restoration work, that it was solid as a rock. And disappointing that this money which was recommended to council to be allocated on an annual basis, $20,000, had been used for that purpose rather than employing, who knows,
I just want to caution you, Clive, that we are talking about health and safety here, and our CEO does take health and safety seriously. So I understand what you are saying, but also from a health and safety perspective, it is on our CEO to investigate a structure like that, to take a look. So I understand that you feel maybe it was strong as a rock, but they would not close the wharf just to close it. So I just want to caution you. I don't want to stop you. I just want you to take into account the CEO will not just go ahead and do anything when they have to investigate health and safety. That is where that money was spent. And I'm not debating you. I'm just cautioning you. So carry on, my friend. I just want to.
Yeah, well, you know, I expected that sort of comment in defence of the measures taken by the council fulfilling their role. What I'm saying is that I'm debating the accuracy of the assessments made by those and the money spent on reports, which they could have got that advice from the people who had given me the original safety reports for nothing. They could have easily done that. Why they chose to go to somebody else, beggars belief. However, that's where we're at. Okay, the second thing that I'm concerned about regarding the wharf is the replacement of the two posts at the entranceway, which were built with materials that we could only get at the time, and it was said to be okay if we actually treated them properly, which wasn't done, and as a result, a kauri, softwood, and collapsing. So they need to be replaced, and we brought this problem to the attention of the council some time ago and got a permission to get a quote from a local contractor who had not only the ability to change it to some Jara poles that he had imported from Australia, which would be perfect, and I would have used it, we had them at the time, but he's also got the skill to be able to plane them and make them fit for purpose in there to support the beam that goes across the top. We were asked to get a quote from him, we did so, and that amounted to a pathetic $12,000 to replace both of those poles and put the new ones in place. My concern is that the poles themselves are now in danger to human safety, with the crossbar that they support being in such a state of disrepair. Closure of that part of the complex would be a justifiable recommendation. Come on, council. When are you going to fully honour your undertakings that you've made in the past? Albeit not you guys, but members of this council in the past. Our trust in your integrity is being severely tested. It's not good enough. And I say that I'm not about to come here trying to badmouth you people with no due course. We've put up with this treatment for years, and it goes alongside all the good work that, and this is the disappointing part about this relationship, it goes alongside as a black mark on council when it shouldn't be there. I'm just drawing it to your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have been, so I sent the information at 8:35 last night, but the mayor doesn't sleep. So I did communicate with the CEO, who did come back and say all the information in regards to the wharf, the Reynolds Wharf, all that information will be pulled together for councillors to take a look at in due course. So I do want to thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you.
And in due course, we will then get all that information from staff and take it from there. Okay, thank you, Clive. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you, Poka, both Poka joining us here today. Poka Dolly and Poka Judy, thank you for bringing Clive to us. He's a gem, and take care. We will catch up again. Thank you. Okay, councillors, it is 9:25 and I'm taking my blazer off, ready for hard work for the next 2.5 hours. So buckle up. My intention is that we will be out of here by 12:15 at the latest. I have to catch a flight later, but I've looked at our agenda. We should be able to get stuff done quick, smart. Nadine can join us to 10:25. Nadine, just give me a thumbs up if you want to do your report earlier, or can I start hoovering through and then we see how we go?
Morena tātou, you can start hoovering through and we'll see how we go.
Hoover away, friends. Everyone ready? I'll see how we go, but if I'm not going to stop at 10 o'clock, grab your own coffee and yeah, so I will get up and grab more coffee. So first of all, Pauline, I'm going to take everyone to page 23. And those are, thank you, Debbie. Point of order. I will take us to page 23, and these were our audit and risk recommendations. I'm very happy to move that. That is just our closed report, seconded by Councillor Foster. All in favour, one pre-carried. So, councillors, next is an issue which we are not going to discuss in deep detail, because what we are deciding today, I know, Tony, you are frothing by the mouth thinking we are going to discuss the details. We are not. We are only going to talk if that is appropriate. So I'm going to open the floor. I don't know if there's someone. Deb, did you want to say something to that? Macrand, come on, my friend. Hot seat for you. So if you can give us like 2-minute wrap up, take everything as read. And councillors, at the end of this, if you take a look at page 26, that is what we will decide today, if it's still the most appropriate and how we want to go forward. With yours, sir.
Morning, everyone. Through your worship, this is a statutory review of the bylaw. The bylaw is the mobile shops and other traders bylaw. The bylaw sets certain rules and standards for mobile businesses in the region. Examples of those mobile businesses would be mobile shops, truck stalls, etc. The bylaw helps council maintain a regulatory framework to manage public spaces, health risks and nuisances. This report here in front of you seeks a determination from the council that the bylaw is the most appropriate way to deal with the problem, and that a review of the bylaw is required. A workshop has been proposed by staff to discuss the potential changes to the bylaw later on. So,
thank you for that, Makaran. So, councillors, any questions or queries? Councillor Robinson.
Thanks, Makaran. Thanks for the paper. Two things. So this is not really going to hit the fan until May 2026. So I'm really happy that we've got such a good long pathway to lead in, that we have a workshop and we really get this right instead of sometimes we're under a bit of pressure with our bylaws. So that's really great. I am surprised at the references to the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act. For me, it was kind of left out of this paper as the first time such an in-depth coverage of the Bill of Rights on a bylaw, and I just don't have any memory of us going to such depth with other bylaws and the Bill of Rights because of the section of the LGA. Is there something specific about this particular bylaw which invokes the New Zealand Bill of Rights obligations over any other bylaw and our section in the LGA? Take note of the NZBOR?
Your Worship, no, nothing specific to this bylaw. We have just updated some of our templates, so you may just see some of that legislative things that we have to cover off, just maybe get a bit more emphasis than in past reports.
So food trucks don't have any greater rights than... Right, well, thank you for the paper. I'm looking forward to this. This is great, and I'm happy to move the paper.
Thank you. Councillor Cranston, were you next?
Yeah, thanks. I know when we discussed this in the past many years ago, the main concern was with shops setting up near an existing business who are paying rates, rent, connection charges and all that, and it was perceived that there was an unfairness to it. When I read the paper, there was two comments about that. One was that we couldn't do anything about competition, but the other one was stating metre distances from the business. So what is the position on that?
So the current bylaw doesn't allow any mobile shops to come within 100-meter radius of a permanent business. So that's the status.
That is correct.
Thank you.
You happy to second the paper? You happy to second the paper? Councillor Foster.
Is there any indication when we will be having a workshop on this?
Just need to work through calendars. So.
We'll get it into calendars early. Kapai? All in favour? Aye. 1-3 carried. Thank you, Makaran. Thank you, Joe. Talking about calendars, page 54. So I'll quickly talk to this a little bit because Julian and I have worked through this. You will see that most meetings are on Wednesdays and Thursdays, except in February and November, we will have operations on a Tuesday because I'm at National Council the Thursdays and Fridays. So I've asked for him just to remove those. Our intention is to stick to this 95% of the time. Unfortunately, things do happen, and if we have long notice, say both Nadine and I and summoned to something 6 weeks away or 8 weeks away, we will then get Julian to change a date. But our intention is to give people ample opportunity to take a look, and these are the meetings that we expect councillors. I'll come to you, Councillor Telfer. One thing I want to say to you, workshops and stuff like this are on top of this. So the Wednesdays and Thursdays where there might not be something, that is if we don't lay it on the back of a council meeting, which I sometimes find is too onerous. People are quite tired after lunch, and to then focus on something, so that will then be added on. Councillor Telfer.
Just wondering whether we're going to do page 23, the recommendation on the Audit and Young.
Yep, we can get to that when I'm finished with this paper.
Going in order.
Thank you for that. Did I miss a paper on 23?
Committee recommendations, yeah.
I moved it. I said, yeah. Wake up, bro. Anywho, let's get back to, this is the, Julian worked really hard to try and incorporate like the zone which Councillor Telfer and myself, so there's zone 3 stuff which the lovely Councillor Pahuru Huriwai attended on my behalf, and she apparently, aside from dancing it up on the dance floor, she made you were the photographer, she made a lovely presentation on our Titiriti compass. And so he's trying to incorporate all of that. You would see that we've got also in there the GHL, SOI, and you will see we've got an election on the September 11th, so that October 11th, so that changed some dates beforehand. So I'm very happy to move this, and like I say, 95% of the time we try to stick with it. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Pahuru Huriwai. All in favour? Aye. 1-3.
Just like that zone, the next zone 3 meeting is in Taranaki.
Next zone meeting is in Taranaki. And I would that's in April. I would make sure to be there. Thank you for that. Okay, Nadine, are you ready? We are going to now move to page 60, which is our CEO report. Nadine, I do want to congratulate you on a very thorough report. When I read this yesterday, I thought you were touching on nearly everything council in there with a little update on what's going on. So do you want to speak to it, or should I just open it up in sections? You go first, Nadine.
Thank you, Your Worship. So just in terms of, and apologies if there is a layout, looks like the intro's kind of gone over 2 pages on my docs, but thank you for that feedback, Your Worship. I guess one thing I would like councillors to consider is if there's anything else that you'd like to see, or anything maybe less if there's too much information in here. We are drawing it from across the organisation, so directors and managers are feeding in parts. But if you feel it's about right and it's good information, we'll carry on as we go. So yeah, I hand it over to you, Your Worship, to take us through.
Yes, so I thought it was very extensive. What I'm going to do is, I don't know if people have specific questions. Do you want me just to roll through the different sections, and then if you remember or ask, and this is not, there's so much information there, I cannot imagine people having lots of questions, but feel free. First, we're going to go to our central government updates, and that is page 5 to 8, and that is about local water done well, which we've had our workshop on, our emergency management improvement program, resource management reform, and also a review of the national direction. So that is very good information for all of us, just to know where we are going and what is coming our way. Then we go to our council plans and policy updates, and the numbers are different on my so that's our 3-year plan, our Mayor's Task Force for Jobs, regional speed management, climate change, all of that.
A question on climate change. There's mention on my page 74, which is about climate change team has had limited capacity for the past 3 months. I wonder if that could be explained. And then I also want to know, what is the council's budget for climate change? Is that a figure that we set aside, or is it something we just do?
I would imagine there's a little bit in every...
Yeah, maybe Joe could answer that.
Joe, thank you.
Your Worship, in terms of limited capacity, just in the middle of doing some recruitment at the moment, so that team will be fully staffed in the new year. In terms of budgeting, yes, each team, in terms of its activity management planning, takes into account the impacts of climate change, and the strategic planning team has a very small budget, just in case they need some external support to do some work. Tens of thousands, I can't remember the exact number.
Thank you. Okay, then we glide, Councillor Pahura Huriwai.
I can't find the Mayor's Task Force, what you mean?
Oh yes, it is. That's what Carmen presented to us at our last meeting. Well, page 72.
Oh, right, no, I just wondered whether, because a lot of other mayors have as part of the mayoral task force, people who rangatahi who are part of the 2-year program.
So this is on my agenda, sister. You've read my mind, because we've got that coming up. So we will talk about that later. So that is the mentoring program. I've done it the year before the cyclone, and I had the lovely Parakura Brown, and we spent the year together. I helped him to chair meetings and basic stuff about governance. Then we stopped. I couldn't accommodate that in 2023. But I'm also open, if we discuss it going forward, that one of our councillors might want to take that role as well and share it with me. So we'll discuss that coming up shortly. Okay, we move to civil defence stuff, and you can just see... supplementary.
Just on page 69, under National Policy Statement for Urban Development, It just says amendments to include setting requirements and housing growth targets. Does our infrastructure growth have to meet those? Wouldn't it have to keep up with the housing growth targets?
Who's going to answer that?
So through you, Your Worship, yeah, that is the intention of that long-term housing planning, that it goes hand in hand with infrastructure planning. We're waiting to see what the new national direction looks like and how that works out in practice. But funding and financing is always a challenge.
Sure is, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to take us to our next, which is about our civil defence. So there you can see on page 73 our lovely comms team getting their award for the document that they did. Then civil defence, look at old Teddy scrubbing up, the orbs looking gorgeous when we received our award for civil defence, one of several. Any questions on civil defence? If not, we're going to move into our recovery, and that covers the fossil, food-free, our woody debris, all those things. Councillor Telford, did you have a question?
Yeah, just sorry, just back on page 70,
70?
just around the national environmental standards for commercial forestry. Changes signalled there around reverse changes that increase the council's discretion for afforestation. I just want to get a clarification or direction on where the council sits, because we spend a lot of time talking to different ministers, different meetings around, and it was talk in a lot of those, and at the local government meetings that I attended, around councils being able to actually make some rules for their own districts around land treatment and whatever. I'm quite concerned right at the moment. We've got some properties in this district looking like they were going to be approved to go into forestry. Beautiful farms, and I know as soon as this comes out, we as councillors get this in the ear. Where are we sitting with that?
Joe, can you talk, there's obviously the OIO plays a big role, which we can't do stuff about, but Joe, you would know way more.
So through you, Your Worship, we are still waiting to receive, or officials are still working on what those changes to the NES will actually look like. We're expecting consultation in the first half of next year. In the interim, we are sending some clear messaging to officials that we want to be able to retain the ability to control forestry in Tairāwhiti to meet our community's needs and aspirations and the type of land that we have here in Tairāwhiti. So that's an ongoing conversation. We are waiting to see where that lands. Obviously, as councillors, you have the option of taking up that advocacy with ministers at your political level.
Yes. Yeah, because you know, we hear all these nice things all the time about right tree, right place, and we go away, and at the moment the whole
Just speak to the microphone, please.
The whole focus is on you know, we've got this really erosion prone land that's taken the whole focus at the moment, and in the meantime, while our whole focus seems to be on trying to sort that out, all this is still happening behind us in the back gate. And if we just don't look at the bigger picture of our whole district and keep our eye on the whole district, we're going to end up with more problems. And I know what's going to happen. Every farm that's well fenced, water systems over it, everything else that goes out, it affects the community and it affects every business in this town. So I just want to, I think we just need to really actually still make that a priority to deal with, and we should be able to, as council, make some decisions for our own district and say, you know, basically this is what we want to happen in our own back doorstep.
Councillor Farahima.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Just appending to that part around the National Environmental Standard for Commercial Forestry, those standards is, am I correct in, actually it's Council standard, am I correct in saying that the things that Councillor Telfer is concerned about, which I'm also concerned about, those things aren't possible under this new environmental standard? Am I correct in saying?
So through you, Your Worship, we don't yet know what the changes will be. We've had signals that there will be changes to reverse the most recent set of changes that did give us more control over where planting occurred, but we don't actually know. Nothing has been proposed or put in writing yet. It's still...
The Minister indicated to me more like May. That's when I asked him, when is what going to be, he said, May.
Well, may I get back to you?
You know, it's also just him thinking how fast is it?
Well, they're working on several pieces of national direction and they intend to consult on them together, so hence why it's taking some time to work through.
And then we have the, supplementary, Your Worship. We will also make our submissions and the viewpoint known of this council in regards to being able to manage forestry in this region, our specific tairawhiti, way of wanting to manage those things in this region during that process.
Absolutely, and it's really useful to have the signals now that this is a key topic of concern. Well, we already knew that, but just have it reconfirmed so we can prepare ourselves accordingly to make sure we've got those submissions.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. South, Your Worship.
You go.
Yes, through Your Worship, just on that too, the team, we have sent a letter through to the Chief Executive of MPI outlining our requirements for or consideration for the changes that will be made to the NES as well. So that is all consistent with the conversations that are happening around the table right currently.
Councillor Cranston, I'll get back to you. Councillor Cranston.
Yeah, with regard to fossil, the category 3 properties, most of them have settled now, and demolition has started on most of them as well.
Councillor Cranston, can I just stop you? I thought you were going to talk about forestry. I just wanted to that up. I just thought he was going to contribute about the previous discussion. Is there another question, Councillor Telfer, that you had?
Yeah, no, like I just wanted to make the point. There are changes being made, looking at being made, and there will be changes looking to be made in another couple of years, and another couple of years in a different government. I'm just looking at the position the settings we are currently operating under. We have been to listen to a whole lot of people over the last 18 months talk to us, and that's as long as I've been here as part of council, telling us that we can actually make rules for our own district. And that's under the current settings we have. Why haven't we done this? Why haven't we made this a priority? Because we sit there looking at going, oh, well, we've got this change coming up, so we'll just wait until they tell us what we're going to do. I think it's about time we took ownership for our own district and says, sorry, this is what we want to do in our district, and get on and do it, because we just keep waiting for another change, and the minute that change is made, 2 years' time, there'll be another change made because this isn't working or that isn't working. I just feel like we've missed an opportunity to actually do something for ourselves and say, this is what we want for our district, and someone else can make rules for their own district.
I think you're oversimplifying very complex.
Well, it might be. Maybe it might need to be oversimplified for a change.
So and through Your Worship, so there is a paper coming to Sustainable Tairāwhiti next week that explains some of the constraints that are currently being imposed on us in terms of changes we can make and how quickly we can make them. So we have some limitations on how quickly we can progress a plan change related to forestry at the moment. And that's a law change that's been made very quickly that we have no control over.
Councillor Robinson and then Wharehinga. And are we all still on forestry?
And RCE? Yes.
And Dean, we'll come back to you.
That's okay, because Joe, I was going to more eloquently express the question than Councillor Telfer. And Joe has answered the question.
So then we move on to Councillor Wharehinga.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I do just need to state, and I wouldn't usually, but the paper's here, the environmental standards aren't optional. We can only create rules in our region based on what the environmental standards are. We can't make them harder, because then those companies that our increased regulations affect will then challenge those in Environment Court. We can only go here, and this is a very fine spot that we can play in. I agree with the sentiment around us. I've always agreed from day one of me being in council 2016, I remember sitting in that old building, having this exact conversation with the national government of that time about increased regulation for forestry and te tai rāwhiti. So I 100% agree with the sentiment. However, we can only go as far as the national environmental standards allow us to go, and they don't allow us to go that far with these current proposed changes. So I do just need to state that for the record because of the papers here.
Nadine, is your hand still up or is it now down?
Yes, no, yes, it is up.
Now it's up.
Hey, what we could possibly do, if the council so desired to do so, is recast the MPI letter that has gone to the chief executives at an operational level about the policy changes, and put it from the council. So at a governance level to the minister. So I'm happy our team can go away and just freshen that up for you all to consider us sending to minister for MPI.
Any more questions in regards to forestry stuff? Otherwise, I'm going to move us into our recovery, and Councillor Cranston, you start off again. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Page 78. The Category 3 properties have mostly been settled and demolition started on those properties. I just wondered whether we've discussed or had an intention for those sections and properties, because at the moment the potential is that we could have very weed-infested sections scattered throughout the city and environment. So what's our intention for those properties now that we've settled them?
Ms Noble.
Through you, Your Worship, there is a paper coming to Council next month that sets out a framework for decision-making, for principles and a framework for decision-making on the future use of that Category 3 land. And I will be emailing you later today, actually, with a heads up on that, because we're just doing some early comms with iwi and hapu on that. We do have some sort of maintenance in place in the interim, but I don't want to steal the thunder of that paper.
Right, thank you.
Nice.
Any more questions in recovery space, which is all ticking along? I just chaired a recovery steering group meeting today, and everything is ticking along, and we will hear more of that at our next council meeting as well. Next we move...
Sorry, Madam Chair. Yes. Page 79, just in relation to the Category 2P, I've had some discussions with Joe around this.
2P.
Yeah, the 2P. There's 168 2P properties. Joe, are you able to give us a bit of a heads up as to how those expert reports are tracking, and where you think any early indications of where some of those categorisations might land?
So through you, Your Worship, there are a few more complex properties where we're getting sort of a review and some independent advice. We're expecting the findings at the end of this month, so I'll have a better idea then. At the moment, all still remaining within Cat 2P, so some form of mitigations are available, and I'll keep you updated.
Thank you.
Okay, next we move to our relationships, co-governance with Tangata Whenua, JMA, and racism work, Waiapu, and obviously our LLE as well. Any questions or queries or updates there? I know our Māori Ward councillors met with Nui and had a very productive meeting there as well. So onwards and upwards, I say. Great. General management. So now we move to page 84, which is about personnel, health and safety, our financial reporting. It's quite straightforward because we covered that off in finance and performance. Councillor Foster.
Yeah, just on page 84 about the report across council indicated a notable increase in abusive and unacceptable behaviour directed at staff within our community. And I see a figure of 212 incidents. I'm just like, oh my goodness, what is going on out there?
Library.
That's mainly the library.
Well, pool, library, our people doing the ticketing for cars.
But it's increased
road
hugely
workers.
compared to what it used to be. I mean, we can always say the library and we can say out there, but what has changed? Why are the public so aggressive?
It's not unique to Gisborne, Councillor Foster. I have my own theory, and my theory is that people are really, really irritated since COVID. The whole world is a little bit unsettled, and people, when I go and see all my mayors in Wellington, they have exactly the same issues. We see central government also at the hospital, people abusing doctors and nurses. I feel everyone is a little unsettled. They affected post-COVID, high inflation, high cost of living. People are really fragile, and every one of us just need to practice a little bit more grace with each other. I think that is what everyone needs to do, is take a deep breath and try and be kind to each other and be a bit more graceful. But it is sad, Councillor Foster, it's really sad. Yeah. Then, the fabulous 1,000-year walkway bridge, which you will all get an invitation to once we know the opening date. Who has been to the Peel Street toilets? Hands up.
Good for research purposes.
No, Councillor Foster. Thank you to our team who has done that. There's now a beautiful wharepaku in there.
Yeah.
Anything else councillors want to discuss? That's a beautiful update, Nadine, on the township upgrades, community facilities, PRMP stuff, which is quite extensive. Councillor Alder.
Thank you, Your Worship. On page 4, on deliberative democracy project, question mark, who pays for this? My first question. And my second question is that the Citizens Assembly will produce a report which will come as a recommendation to us. Will we get to see the information that they were given to form that conclusion?
So who's going to...
Can respond to that, Your Worship. So the funding came through the Better Off funding that we received for the water, when we were doing Entity C water changes, and as part of that, the Better Off funding enabled council to do or undertake initiatives that otherwise would not have been fundable, and so part of it was looking at new ways to engage with community, and deliberative democracy is a very popular process of engagement that we were keen to trial around climate change, initially being one of the big issues that people worried about 4 years ago. And then we had obviously events like Cyclone Gabrielle. So the team that we have contracted to deliver that work then pivoted and working alongside the the transition process that we're running with our many stakeholders. And so they had their first meeting with their selected participants that are supposed to represent basically our community from a different variety of backgrounds, demographics, and so forth. And then the intention is that that group would workshop over a series of weekends and hear from experts, and then present to council what they think a fair and equitable transition should be in terms of what we're dealing with our land use. And so at the first workshop that they had, myself, Kerry and team were present to kind of set some of those expectations, and the intention was also to have Her Worship attend also to talk a bit about democracy, and that yes, there is a report, but there are a whole lot of other things that council needs to take into account when making or considering any recommendations. So it's going to be one really valuable piece of information that gets pulled in wherever we land in this transition space with our forestry and farming sector and community and iwi stakeholders, partners. Did that answer your question, Councillor Alder?
I'm really struggling to hear this too, by the way. It's some way of turning it up. Not really, I don't think, Nadine. So my question is that this group of people are going to be schooled up on the pros and cons of a decision. And my question is, are we as councillors going to get to see those pros and cons? Yes or no?
It should, yes, I would have thought it would be in the report that they're going to provide back to us.
Okay.
The main thing though is the process by which they come to landing at the decision. So it's not the the subject that they're doing is a big subject and absolutely the wicked problem we're trying to deal with. But the whole investment around deliberative democracy is for us to understand and how we may be able to deploy that process in other engagement areas. So so while the report will be useful, it's really the process that they're undertaking to land there that's a really great benefit for us.
Okay, any questions in regards to biodiversity, Wainaki transformation, EMAs, ICMs, which is integrated catchment management, all very good updates for councillors to be across everything council. Councillor Cranston.
Sorry, it might be a backward step, but and it's something I obviously probably missed while I was away. I just want confirmation on the community facilities.
What page?
Page 88. One of the key decisions we had to make was the location, potential location there. The reading of this seems to indicate that we have decided on the Kiwi Pools precinct as the preferred location. Is that a definite? Is that a decision we have made? I'm not against it either way. I just want to get up to speed with where we're at now.
Through your worship, it's not a decision that has been resolved by council. It has been an assessment that the project team working alongside Mana Whenua have identified as the preferred location. So we haven't given our approval.
All right, thank you.
As such.
Okay, and then we just look at all the grant funding, which is like music to our ears. Everything at the end of that document. Councillor Foster.
Yeah, I just want to touch on flood.
What page?
Bottom of 92 and the top of 93, the Flood Intelligence new flood forecasting model. It's got a little bit of a description that it's going to replace our legacy system, but can I just, what is it? What is this new system? And,
Joe.
Operate and give us the update that we want.
So through you, Your Worship, it's the model that we use based on the rainfall and the river flows to predict flood heights and then trigger warnings to residents in terms of flooding and evacuation. So we have an in-house built model at the moment, and we are using a consultant to help us develop a new model that will provide more reliable information and forecasting.
All right. Yeah, cool. And one other thing too, on page 96, about the Spartina spraying, we had a letter from Mr. John Wells with his concerns about the spraying that we're doing.
I'll reply to him.
Yeah, and it's been put on hold. So he's actually identified what the effect of our spraying has done in the meantime in the upper part of the Tarahiru, or the lower part of the Tarahiru, and with just mud flats as opposed to a ecosystem that possibly has worked over the years. So when I read through his letter, I mean, he's got great experience, and I'd just like to know that our staff, kind of have their knowledge, which is probably updated from his, and are we heading in the right direction? Because he does raise some concerns. So
I'll leave that to Joe to answer. We do have Kerry. We do have an extensive reply to. Was it sent to all councillors? Yep. That I replied to him. A huge reply. No? I'll just quickly ask Dee. She must have just replied to him. I'll send it on to everyone. Kerry.
Yes, Your Honour, the issue is that Spartina is in our peak management strategy as a...
Sorry, Kerry, can you speak up a bit, please?
Spartina is in our pest management strategy to be progressively controlled over time, and we have had it as an eradication eradication species in the past. So it is quite a wee problem. We've actually removed it from Te Wherewhera over time. We keep a close eye on there. That's been really successful, but that is the issue with it, and we've always taken into account why it was put there and the attempts to deal with the river, but it is an invasive weed problem, and so we're certainly keeping an eye on what the effects will be over time.
Yeah, I do understand that it has helped raise the level of the river, so it's concerning. But no, it's okay. I just didn't get a response, so I just like to acknowledge his letter and how we dealing with it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Pahururu.
Thank you. Just a pukuhau for me, a new word that I don't know what it means. On page 93, under groundwater monitoring, bore drilling. What does ground truth mean?
When, often we predict what's going to happen, or we make assumptions based on maybe some aerial photography or desktop analysis. Ground truthing is when you go out and in the field and actually see if what you thought was there is there.
Okay.
Proof.
Thank you. And a supplementary?
Yes.
On page 96, under Sustainable Hill Country Project updates, limited progress has been made on areas of multiply owned Māori land due to ongoing tenure issues where land titles with no governance structure can be physically pegged from adjoining land. What's the plan? My fear there is that with the governments, the new government and their sort of with the changes that are happening, is there a chance that things could happen on this land without full consent of who the landowners are? If you can't find if they have no governance structure?
For you, Your Worship, we've actually progressed a couple of reasonably nicely last week after this report. We've been down this path before and it's gone blind. There are some governance issues, and unfortunately on the one we looked at last week, we've got 8 land titles and we sort of have some agreement on 7 of them, but we've got one in the middle that's not, so there's some real issues with that. We've been trying to progress it all the way. The danger here is that there is funding available to do that, and that may disappear. So we're doing as much as we can. The funding actually comes from MPI, so we have no control. We have attempted to go through this over a long period of time. There are also issues that T2 Mapairoa have in terms of what risk they have in the space, and that's some real risks they have as an organisation. But we are trying to do our best on it.
Thank you, Gary. So the Kumara find does pretty well too if you're trying to find people. You might not find other ways, but often you can probably track some, find people who have whenua or might be able to help make some roadways into there. And just for I guess it's just to remind us that the way that multiply owned Māori land is no fault of the landowners and those who whakapapa there. It's been created, since 1865 Native Land Act. It's been a problem, and it will take time to work through those issues. So thank you for taking that time to navigate your way through that with whānau. Kia ora.
Any other questions in regards to this report from the CEO? Did you have another question, Councillor Papu? Now's your time.
Just a quick suggestion on page 98 for the Creative Communities Fund. I acknowledge see that mentions the loss of Daryl Monteith, and also there's a couple of gaps in the committee, and it's open to suggestions. I suggest Jordan Walker potentially as somebody who might be good for that committee. That had come up in my thoughts some time ago before the committee was formed. But I know Jordan had indicated an interest earlier, so maybe worthwhile going back. Thank you. Kia ora koutou.
Okay. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wharehinga. All in favour? Aye. Contrary, carried. So I lied about the coffee break.
That's one question before the council meeting. It's about our liquor licensing policy. Submissions just closed the other day. And then are we going to be reviewing or review liquor licensing policy before the end of the year? Because 80% of the people have agreed that we shouldn't have a sensitive site policy in the CBD. So there's a lot of people looking at this, one in particular, who thinks he might be able to open if we pass this policy. I don't know if that is possible.
I just want to set realistic expectations that even if you don't have a sensitive site policy, people can still object to you asking for a license. So if you ask for a license from the DLC, and Joe, please correct me if I'm wrong, if you ask for a license from the DLC and they give you the license, someone can still object. Then when ALA look at that, there won't be a sensitive site policy, but someone still have the right to object. Is that correct?
Through you, Worship, I'll get back to you on who does and doesn't have rights of objection. In terms of the timing, so the engagement that was running online was informal engagement. We still have to undertake a formal consultation process before any changes to the local alcohol policy can be made. So they won't be made before Christmas. And whilst you're right, there were many people that supported the change, there were some quite strong voices in opposition as well. So just to let you know, it's not a one-way story. There are two sides to the debate and the issue.
Okay, so it won't be this year then?
No. Just said that.
Just reaffirming. You hear that?
Really nasty thing to do. I'm going to... can I ask what you want to talk about?
Just a comment about that survey, if I may. I did the survey myself. I was only able to find it because they sent a link. I had previously tried to find the survey through the council webpage and searched everything, alcohol, liquor licence, survey, and drew a blank on every search.
But it was sent to 15,000 people through He Pānui.
So I just wanted to listen.
Are you signed up for the He Pānui Council newsletter? You should.
Went through there, okay. I just thought the web page would be a place to...
Can you...
Well, I'll feed that back to our comm staff. I do not pretend to understand how the website works.
Because it was on Facebook as well. But we'll find out how it was advertised and who it was
sorry, Your Worship, it is on our page. You just, for our consultations, you go to our web page, there's Have Your Say, and then it takes you through to our survey site. And then when you get to the survey site, there were issues raised about information that was requested. I think Councillor Foster, you raised that. So,
may I suggest a little workshop, Councillor? No, I'm just kidding. Anything else?
I did just want to confirm in regards to how you had said, Your Worship, about anyone being able to object to a liquor licence. Anyone can. Okay. Anyone can.
Okay, councillors, 15 minutes worth of coffee. Load up, and then we will go into public excluded. So